In Italy, Juventus extend their lead over Atalanta to 7 points today, but boy, were they made to fight for all that point as they can only manage a 3-3 draw against Sassuolo. Let's welcome in Gab Marcotti to the show. I apologise in advance. I know I promised Frank Leboeuf. Technical difficulties means that we're stuck with Gab. I don't know how he's going to fill, but there we go. I'm sure he will try. Gab, what a match this was.
Oh, tremendous game. I mean, Sassuolo have been in exceptional form in recent weeks. Roberto De Zerbi is playing some of the most exciting football that we're seeing in Serie A, the likes of Jeremy Boga, Ciccio Caputo, and of course Berardi as well, all doing very, very well. So this was, in some respects, it was a trap game for Juve. But then early on, they rush out to that 2-0 lead, and then they throw it away. And I think that is the single biggest concern. This is so un-Juve-like, this idea of you go out and you take a lead, or it's so unlike what we're used to from Juve. You take a 2-0 lead, and then you let the team get back into it. Sassuolo absolutely fearless. And a stat for you, Dan, something like the Juventus faced more shots in one half in this game than they have in any game since 2005. It was just a meltdown. They ended up, grabbing an equalizer on a set piece at the end. But Maurizio Sarri addressed this afterwards, saying, "I don't see how we can play well and then so badly in the course of the same game."
Yeah, what's going on though, Gab? Because you mentioned the fact, obviously, they conceded all those shots, but this is an anomaly. 9 goals they've conceded now in their last 3 matches.
Yeah, so where do you point the finger? I think you can't help but look at the midfield. Started well with Pjanic, set up a goal, but again they were getting pushed around by Sassuolo's midfield. I think you point the finger as well at the defense. You would expect they kept a very, very deep line, and time and again, Sassuolo players were making runs in between sort of Pjanic and the 2 center backs. Too much space there. These are the kind of basic things that even Sarri pointed out afterwards. He says, "Well, we should have defended higher up the pitch. We should have been a little more courageous defensively." Well, hey, guess what? You're the manager. Did your players let you down, or were these bad instructions? Up front, inevitably, you're going to have, I think, you're going to have issues because as fantastic as Cristiano Ronaldo is as a goal scorer, the reality is you have to compensate for what he does or what he doesn't do when you're not in possession. But, bottom line, you're 2-0 up, you got to see it out. It's just, this is Serie A. In Italy, we really look down on teams that concede 2-goal leads, and it's not what you expect from Juve. Even though, of course, we saw it recently, already, but you don't expect lightning to strike twice.
Where does all this put Sarri, Gab? Obviously, Juve are going to win the league, but you're looking ahead then to that Champions League second leg against Lyon. Is it as simple as if he loses that, he's out? Or even if he advances, there's still question marks about whether or not he'll be in charge next season?
Look, I said it at the time. I thought Sarri was the wrong manager for the way this team has been assembled. I think he bears some of the responsibility. It doesn't change the fact that this is a really poorly assembled team, that they spent money. They spent they spent their resources, I think, on the wrong pieces. Yeah. Remember, arguably Juve's best player this season going forward has been Paulo Dybala, and this is a guy they were desperately trying to offload last summer, right? That shows, I think, a distinct lack of planning from the front office. And this is the same group of people who then appoint Maurizio Sarri, and they don't necessarily, I think, give him the tools to do what he does. Now, Sarri definitely not blameless. I think I certainly would have expected more from him at this stage of the season. They're going to have to review all this. I wouldn't be surprised that, unless he does something extraordinary in the Champions League, I wouldn't be surprised if he does go in the summer.
Wow, what's the feeling in Turin looking ahead to that second leg against Lyon? Is they looking at, is it a layup already lining up the quarterfinals, or is there genuine concern?
I mean, I think they look at it as a layup because they have Cristiano Ronaldo and his history in the Champions League and the pedigree, Juve's own pedigree. They've reached 2 finals in recent years, and it's not a big lead that you have to turn over. But all these insecurities. I mean, they looked at Sassuolo as a layup. I'm sure they're going to look at their next match against Lazio as a layup. That should be a layup. Lazio have been terrible. All these things put together. But, once these insecurities sort of creep in, it's really hard to undo them. And this runs so counter to Juventus's DNA historically, where Juventus were the team that maybe they beat you 1-0, but they never really conceded. Maybe they didn't play well, but they had such personality and self-belief, and they were so sure of themselves that they'd see it over the line. This is part of the modern Juve myth, of the modern Juve archetype, if you will. And this is all going out the window this season. This is a team that is insecure, and I think it shows.
Away from Juventus, what were your big takeaways from elsewhere in Italy today, Gab?
Well, I think it has to be Lazio dropping points again, and lucky to get a point. This is the extraordinary thing about this Serie A season, is that, with Juve stumbling now towards the end, I think teams like Inter and Lazio, Lazio less so because they did so well for so long, but, other teams are going to look around and saying, oh my God, we should be in this title hunt. We should be taking advantage of it. We'll see how Inter do on Thursday night. Obviously, it's a big game for them. Milan still coming along nicely. Roma as well, with that win over Verona. So I think there's a bit of a tightening up at the top. Juve still have that big gap, and I don't think that's going to change.
Quickly, Gab, what's changed with Milan? Why is it suddenly clicked?
I think players are fit. Ibrahimovic is getting a ton of the credit, but I think he's contributing sometimes more off the pitch than on the pitch, and sometimes a double-edged sword. But I think the quality is allowed to shine through. Guys like the Kessie Benacer partnership is finally Pioli saying, like, all right, you guys run with it. And I think those guys are really, really driving things in the middle of the park. Defensively, they're more solid as well. And Rebic keeps scoring. So put those things together, and you have a Milan that's back to winning ways.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.